Welcome to Talk to the Experts. Greg Mackling along with Theo, Heineman-Kowalchuck from One Life, Workplace Safety and Health. We know that you know the commercials from here on CJOB, but we like to get behind the stories. We like to find out about the folks who start and run these businesses in our community. And in Theo's case, this really does come from her heart. And we're going to talk about COR certification, C-O-R, later on. But I like to think of our heart as our core. So why don't you tell our listeners, why did you start this business, or how did you get into it in the first place, Theo?
Well, thank you, Greg, and thanks for having me today. I often say that One Life was an accident. I never wanted to be in this, no pun intended. I never wanted to be in this, I never wanted to have this company. But what happened was I was an external auditor for a COR in the heavy construction industry in 2008. And at that time, 50% of companies were failing their safety audits.
5-0.
5-0. And the year previous, 43 workers lost their life in the course of earning a living. I saw one company go bankrupt, indirectly related to losing their safety certification. And I got really, frankly, upset because I care very deeply about entrepreneurs because I've always been one. I'm a serial entrepreneur. And I found that business owners, either they didn't have the resources to be able to have effective systems or the time. And so I decided to start One Life to be able to help business owners have more sustainable safety systems and better run companies.
Now, we've spoken about this in the past, and we're going to, really kind of drill down about a couple of specific things today. But we know that even businesses with the best intentions of going down the proper road to get a safety program in place often realize either halfway or at the end of that process that maybe they were working with the wrong people.
Well, truthfully, that is one of the key reasons why I started One Life. And very unfortunately, anybody can print a card and call themselves a safety professional, unfortunately. And it is true. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it is true. That's one of the huge problems that I saw, that there was a lot of external consultants in particular, and also internal people. I always say, when you don't understand, you do what you do understand. And sometimes the high risk things like soil types or excavations or hoisting and rigging, if you don't really understand that stuff, and that's the high risk stuff that kills people, you're not going to do it. You're going to do the things that you do understand, like WMIS, or, and that may not be the thing that's most important in your company. So I would see that, and I still see it today, and it's a great frustration. So
you've brought Grant Jones along with you, and he is now an integral part of the team.
Well, he's an integral part of my safety journey. Grant Jones was actually one of my mentors. And I did my first audit with Grant. He's very experienced. And yes, I'm very grateful that he's on the One Life team. And our clients are very grateful too, because he brings a lot of value to their businesses.
So welcome to Talk to the Experts, Grant. Great to get to meet you today.
Thanks, Greg.
In your experience, and we're talking about entrepreneurship, because really what we're talking about is not only protecting the workers, but business owners, quite often, they see this as an obstacle or a barrier to being profitable sometimes. It's just one more thing I've got to deal with. Can you explain why they should view it in a different fashion?
Well, we could probably have a 6-hour conversation.
We could probably do the whole program on that, right?
Yeah, but I think that the approach we take at One Life is that the safety system should tie into your management systems as well. It should be an integral part of the way you do business, and it really is tied into your bottom line, to your profits.
And systems are critical at every turn, no matter whether you're talking about safety, whether you're talking about inventory control. Systems are critical, and the better the systems, the better the business.
Well, that's absolutely true. And I hope for the business owners listening out there, does this resonate? And the comment is, the same issues that cause safety problems cause quality and production problems. So if that's resonating to you as a business owner, that's true. And you ask, why do the big companies like perhaps PCL or Cargills of the world, why do they take safety so seriously? They're the ones that could afford $100,000, $200,000 fine. Why do they take it so seriously? There must be a business reason. It's because, safety and quality are very much integrated. And when you set up safety systems, which integrate with your quality systems, it just allows more freedom as a business owner to work on your business, because you've got standards inside of your company with which supervisors can train on, and it just makes your company flow so much more efficiently.
Theo Heineman-Kowalchuck and Grant Jones from One Life, Workplace Safety and Health, here in Winnipeg, a real success story. Theo is a former Woman Entrepreneur of the Year in this province, so she understands business. As she said, she's a serial entrepreneur. And Theo, how do business owners make their core programs meaningful? Maybe we can take a half a step back, talk about core certification, and talk about how do we make that meaningful for their businesses and their employees, because it's one thing to have a plan in place, but how do you embrace it? How do you encourage that walking the walk?
So maybe we should just back up and talk about what is CORE and who needs it for those that are listening. So CORE is just a framework with which to meet the obligations and to be in compliance with workplace safety and health legislation in Manitoba. So it's set up by the construction associations. They are the only people that can grant CORE. So to be clear, One Life cannot grant CORE. And a lot of tradespeople, contractors are being required to have CORE because they need to meet the requirement for the province of Manitoba to be able to bid on government tenders by January 2014.
January 2014, if you want to bid on a government tender in Manitoba, that's for a Manitoba government tender,
Yes.
Manitoba Hydro?
Manitoba government tender. Manitoba Hydro, in some cases, does require CORE for some work. They're going to require it more and more, is my suspicion.
And you can't just show up, come and say, hey, on January 2014, I need to get certified. There's a process prior to that.
Yeah. So the business owners out there that are the contractors, if you are bidding on jobs with commercial projects, especially with prime contractors, et cetera, large owners, you might want to think about CORE. And because it is becoming really a condition of work and it's going to put you in more of a competitive advantage. But if you want CORE by January 2014, you got to start now, because you have to develop your safety system. Then you have to have 3 months of documentation before you can even get an audit. So if you're thinking that, I'm going to wait till November, December,
you're going to have to be CORE compliant, and you're going to have that certification. We'll talk about that when we return. It's Talk to the Experts. We're here with our friends from One Life, Workplace Safety and Health. So we've got a seminar coming up. There are a couple of dates for you to keep in mind and get registered for, because these will fill up. Tuesday, June the 4th, and Thursday, June the 27th. Those are the same seminar, 2 dates. There are options for you. And I like the fact that one is in the morning, 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. on June the 4th, or 6 to 9 p.m. on Thursday, June the 27th. They will be at One Life Workplace Safety and Health on Marion, 175 Marion. What's the cross street there? I'm trying to remember what it is.
Marion and Kenny.
That's right. And the 7-Eleven's right across, right?
That's right.
Well, you don't need that many Slurpees, but it's good to have them that close. One Life Workplace Safety and Health. And it's only $25.
If you say you're a CJOB listener and heard us on Talk to the Experts, it's $25. Otherwise, it's $100.
Can't go wrong
How's
there.
that?
We're limiting this to the first 25 registrants. So here is the phone number for you to call, 204-231-5433 or 231-LIFE. It's Talk to the Experts right here on 680. Welcome back to Talk to the Experts. Greg Mackling along with our friends from One Life Workplace Safety and Health. And we're talking about CORE certification, C-O-R. We're not talking about your core muscles, although we might get into some of that conversation. Being healthy is obviously a good way to avoid injury in the workplace. But we're talking about your overall health and your safety plan for your business. But, Grant Jones, you're here today. I want to ask you, if I don't own a business and I'm tuning in right now, maybe I'm an employee, why should I continue to listen to our show today? And I work somewhere that, I want to encourage them maybe to go down this road. Why should I care about our conversation?
Well, as Theo said earlier, Greg, core certification is just a framework for safety programs. And if you're running any kind of a business out there, you do have to have a mind towards safety. You have to keep your people safe. It's a requirement of the law. You have to provide a healthy and safe workplace for your workers. And the way to do that is to have some kind of a structured safety program. CORE gives you that framework. There's 14 components in CORE, and they're all required by law. So you have to have all those components in place, and you have to have a documented system to prove that you have that in place as well.
Now, is that for any and all businesses? What businesses? Is there anybody that's exempt from needing this?
Not really. It applies to pretty much all employers in the provinces right across Canada. The CORE program is a national document. However,
and just to be clear, so I think there's a difference between the requirements of workplace safety and health legislation.
Yes.
Right? So the Workplace Safety and Health Act and regulation applies to all employers. CORE does not apply to all employers. We just want to not be misleading anybody.
Right.
CORE is a voluntary program.
But everything that you would find in CORE is most likely something you'd have to have in place anyway. Is that fair?
That's true. And so when employers kind of grumble about having to get CORE, or for that matter, to get CORE, I say get over it. Because A, you have to be in compliance. Or understand the risk you're taking if you don't. And then when they complain about having to be in compliance, I say, get over it, because I see in my experience, and I can speak as a business owner, that when companies get into compliance, they actually make more money, they actually protect their important relationships, and their businesses are more likely to grow. Companies that are not in compliance, they lose a lot of money, they lose important relationships, including key employees, and their businesses don't grow as well.
And there's a saying in business, what gets measured, and in life, what gets measured gets done. And when you're on top of things from a safety standpoint, that can't help but bleed into other parts of your business.
Yeah, definitely. So there's another saying out there too, and this relates specifically to health and safety law. If it ain't documented, it didn't happen, and that's part of the. That's part of the benefit of CORE. As Theo says, all businesses don't have to be CORE certified, but it is the framework that you need. And all those components, you need a backup to prove that you're doing what you need to be doing.
So let's talk about how business owners can make their CORE programs meaningful. Does that mean getting buy-in? When you say be meaningful, what does that mean?
Well, I can certainly talk to the buy-in, and maybe Theo can talk to some of the other things. But for a long time, safety programs were looked at by workers and employees as just a CYA for the company. They're just protecting themselves. And of course, it's not that way at all. It should be, first and foremost, to protect your workers and your employees. No question about that. But
let's face it, it's expensive if somebody's off work with an injury. You've got to replace them. Typically, there's a ramp-up time. Jobs don't get done as quickly. I mean, look at it from an economic point of view. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but right away, I'm thinking it makes way more sense I know it's harder to get a new customer than it is to keep a current one satisfied. It's got to be the same with an employee.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question there's a cost to establishing a health and safety program. But now, these days, it's much easier to do a cost-benefit analysis. We know of all the costs associated with when you have incidents in the workplace. And it adds up very, very quickly. You have WCB costs, you've got retraining costs, you have damaged equipment. Of course, the cost to the injured worker is, that's a pretty tough thing to put a value on. But these all go toward justifying having a good, solid safety program in place, as we said.
If I just want to comment, some of our clients take their safety so seriously because they know if they have a stop work in their plant or a serious injury and they miss a contractual deadline. We have one client where their contractual penalty for shipping goods to South America is $200,000 if they miss a deadline. So there are so many reasons that I could give that safety drives your bottom line. It can drive your bottom line. It can for sure protect your bottom line. I'll take anybody up on that argument any time of the day. And in many cases, it can definitely add to your bottom line.
Theo Heineman-Kowalchuck, Grant Jones, One Life, Workplace Safety and Health. We were speaking before the break about a seminar that's taking place on CORE certification. One is on Tuesday, June the 4th. The other is Thursday, June 27th. And the subtext is removing the complexity and avoiding common pitfalls, because I can only imagine that there are some things that you think are unavoidable, but inevitably they happen.
Well, Grant and I were auditors, both of us, for years. And so what we want to do, come on out, because literally spend the time with us and we can literally save you thousands of dollars and tons of time, because we're going to share with you the mistakes that business owners make with their CORE program. So come on out and we look forward to meeting with you.
Now, in terms of compliance, does CORE mean your business is compliant? And when you ask that question, what do you mean by compliant? In what sense?
A lot of businesses do assume that once they achieve CORE certification, they're automatically compliant, but you still have to do your due diligence. There's still a number of things that you have to monitor your program to make sure you have the components in place, but you have to make sure they're all functioning correctly.
So you can get your membership card, but if you don't do the appropriate things to maintain the system, it can be taken away? Is that an oversimplification?
CORE can be taken away. Definitely it can be taken away. I don't know how often it happens, but it can be. But here's my short answer. Core does definitely not mean you're compliant, and proof of that is to look at the Safe Work website and look at the companies that have had fines or had stop work orders or administrative penalties, and you'll see there's Core certified companies on there. So I just want to do a warning also to prime contractors and owners. Oftentimes when they're evaluating their subcontractors, they'll take their certificate of Core recognition, or the certificate of Core, right, as, oh, they're compliant. Absolutely not. Core only has the meaning that a company gives it. And it can be like losing 10 pounds for the wedding. We're going to get all in shape. We're going to get our Core. And then you don't have an external audit for 3 years. So there's lots of great companies out there who take Core very seriously and have great systems. And there's lots that don't take it seriously and they have very poor systems.
We're going to give you the phone number to register for this seminar, How to Achieve and Maintain Core Certification. So it's a 2-part process. Getting it's one thing, keeping it is another altogether. 231-5433. That's 204-231-LIFE. June 4th in the morning, or Thursday, June 27th in the evening at One Life Workplace Safety and Health, 175 Marion. You'll need to register for this ahead of time. If you're a CJOB listener or already a client of One Life Workplace Safety and Health, $25. Otherwise, it's $99. So you might as well just phone right now and register and save yourself $75.
And say you heard it on CJOB.
Perfect. We'll take a break. More of Talk to the Experts when we read. Talk to the Experts, just enough time to let you know that you can get in touch with One Life Workplace Safety and Health 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's as simple as one. Now it's the number one, onelifeworkplacesafety.com. That's the website. You can give them a call, 204-231-LIFE, 231-5433. We'll take a break. News and sports and weather at the bottom of the hour. More of Talk to the Experts when we reach. Welcome back to Talk to the Experts. We're with our friends from One Life Workplace Safety and Health. I'm Greg Mackling. Joining us in studio today, Grant Jones and Theo Heineman-Kowalchuck. And Theo, it's always great to see you. We haven't seen you for a while, but we know that entrepreneurs and workers alike need to be protected in their work that they do. And we're talking about Core and Core certification, how to maintain it, how to achieve it first and foremost. But before the break, I asked Grant how to make this meaningful. You want to talk about that. How do you make your Core certification meaningful?
Well, I think it's important because, in my opinion, that's the whole success of Core is making it meaningful. So the question that I would pose is, why do you want Core? In my life, in building my business or creating any success in my life, it always started with why do I want it and making sure it's a good why. So a lot of people getting Core, they feel like they have to do it. They feel like they have to be in compliance. They feel like they're afraid of a $100,000 fine. That's an okay why, but it's not a great one. It's fear, and fear is a very poor motivator. And I also think about my high school physics, which reminds me of Newton's third law that says for every force, there's an equal and opposite force. Mm-hmm. So where we feel force, we will automatically create resistance. And that's not a hypothesis, that's proven theory, that's natural law. So I think one of the biggest reasons where I've seen companies struggle with Core is that they feel like they're forced to do it. And if you feel forced, you will struggle forever. You will struggle. So you need to make it meaningful. Find ways to make it meaningful. And we talked earlier about successful companies, what makes them successful. Why do they take safety so seriously? Well, one of the things that workplace safety does for you, one of the things you're required to do by law is have safe work procedures in writing. Well, those are really just standard operating procedures.
Sure. Which
cause companies to work more gracefully, more efficiently. And again, like I said before, give business owners more freedom to work on their business. Most businesses fail because business owners are working in their business. They don't have the structure, and so they're forced to micromanage. And they can't get out and work on their business and be successful, and so they struggle. So that's one of the ways that you can use Core to make your safety, make it meaningful. That's just one way. Another way, at any given time, we'll go to a work site, and the one that's coming to mind is actually not necessarily Core related. It was in an auto body, it was an auto garage, and we had a worker jimmy rigging hoisted the bungee cord.
Oh my.
So, the legislation says, and Core says, you must do inspections of your workplace and your work processes. So really, are we doing inspections for the government? Are we doing inspections for ourselves because people are not using tools and machines correctly or in a way that's going to damage product or cause a third-party liability suit?
And let's face it, we hear it every single day. There are changes being implemented in healthcare, in transportation procedures, simply because the way we always did it, we didn't know any better sometimes, right? And yes, we're resistant and hesitant to change. You mentioned that. It's physics. It's pure physics. It will happen. We resist that change. But just because that's the way you've always done it, that doesn't make it right.
That's correct.
And maybe that's an oversimplification, but the bottom line is you need to make sure that you are doing things safely, you're doing them properly, and not just because the government says so. Grant?
Yeah, and that's so true. So Theo's talking about making the program meaningful to you and mentioning safe work procedures, and that's one of the requirements. You develop safe work procedures for the type of work you're doing. It's also a really valuable opportunity to get buy-in from the employees. It's a very, very important part of your program, and it's required time and time again in the legislation and the regulation that workers are involved in your program. And this is a real benefit, having workers involved in your program, because if they take the safe work procedures and practices, for example, if they have a hand in saying how the work is done safely, they are much more likely to buy in. It's very important. And
not to mention, the last thing you need is someone going home at night and just dreading going to work every single day because they feel unsafe and they're being, maybe they're feeling as though they're being taken advantage of, or they're not feeling valued. I would say that this would lend and give employees the feeling that they're valued if you're implementing this, not the opposite.
Well, two things I would say. Number one, enlightened employers will actually use their safety systems as an employment strategy and a retention strategy, because exactly that. The number one need of all human beings is to feel significant. And speaking to Grant's comment about employee involvement, they're no different than the business owners. So if the employees feel forced, and this is why business owners, if this is one little piece of advice I could give you, and also safety officers and coordinators out there, when you force safety on people, workers, etc., you automatically create what?
Resentment.
Resistance, absolutely. Yep. And so that's what makes One Life, that's our specialty, is working with entrepreneurs. Our specialty is working with profit-driven entrepreneurs to help set meaningful safety systems up. And we will not work with any employer. We will not. One of the requirements we have is that we have to have involvement of your employees, because we know that's what it takes to help you have a successful safety system for your business. Okay,
there's one thing to be compliant. There's one thing to implement this. There's a whole other realm that I'd like to talk about, and that's making this not only something that you do because you have to or feel that you have to, but making it a competitive advantage.
Well, that's very interesting. So I have a love of sales and marketing. That was my first original career, as a sales and marketing person. And I absolutely see this. When you see contractors and they're bidding against a number of different competitors for a job, you have to make yourself different. Price is not the only thing that matters to a prime contractor. You can tell yourself that's true, but it's not. So if price is not the only thing that matters, what else matters? So I'm sure you have a lot of answers. But the other thing that's starting to matter now is, are you a good risk or not? So you can either just submit your certificate of core with your bid, or maybe you can actually make yourself stand out with the risk management that you're doing. And if you want to know more about that, come and talk to us. And if you're a business owner, I'll personally sit down with you and help you design a strategy to actually make your bid stand out, so you're more apt to get the job.
You can get in touch with Theo Heineman-Kowalchuck. It's really quite simple. Two ways to do it the old-fashioned way: 204-231-5433, 231-LIFE. Get it? 23-1-LIFE. One Life Workplace Safety and Health, or via the internet, and you can go to their website, onelifeworkplacesafety.com. We'll take a break. More of our conversation with Theo and Grant with our friends from One Life Workplace Safety and Health right here on Talk to the. Welcome back to Talk to the Experts. Greg Mackling, along with our friends from One Life Workplace Safety and Health, Theo Heineman-Kowalchuck and Grant Jones, and you can get in touch with them via the internet. Just go online, www.onelife, it's the number one, lifeworkplacesafety.com, or give them a call, 204-231-5433. They're going to be talking and conducting a seminar, a couple of different days in June. We'll give you the details on that. How to achieve and maintain core certification and removing the complexity and avoiding common pitfalls. Because as we're learning today, it's all well and good to get a piece of paper that says you're compliant in something. It's a whole other thing to kind of live and breathe it. And that's really what you're talking about, really, Theo, is making this a part of your identity, your business's identity.
Yeah, it's like just how you do business. It's like coming in the morning and switching on the lights. It's just how you do business. It's like getting in your car and putting on the seatbelt. It feels funny that we don't do that anymore. If we get in, we don't do it. It feels funny.
That's true.
Yes.
I was one of those kids that, I grew up before the seatbelt law, and we used to go to British Columbia. Guess who had the seatbelt law first? Was BC. And we'd go to Kelowna to visit my cousins. And we would come back across that Alberta, BC border. We get those seatbelts off as fast as we could because for whatever reason, it wasn't normal. We didn't wear the seatbelts at home in Winnipeg. You were treading on me, man. And you didn't like that, right? Now, as a parent, I can imagine getting in the car and moving off my driveway without my kids getting buckled in. And they're the ones that are always warning me and telling me, Daddy, you need your seatbelt.
And that's a good analogy too, right? So if you look at rollover statistics, and I don't know for sure the exact number, but it's something like a very large of rollover fatalities is because you fail to wear a seatbelt, right? So the reason why they put in that law, because there's credible risk. The stats say there's credible risk. And I just want to tie that back to safety systems because it's all about your credible risk. And I do not believe in absolute safety. Absolute safety absolutely stifles productivity. So lots of times I think business owners write us off as safety professionals like they're these crazy safety people. No, I'd like to believe I'm the credible safety professional that helps you have a more profitable, well-run business.
Now we're talking about these seminars that are going to be taking place Tuesday, June the 4th. That one takes place 9 a.m. until 12 p.m., 3 hours at One Life Workplace Safety and Health at 175 Marion. $25 for CJOB listeners and safety assistant clients, or $99 for non-clients. 231-5433. You can register at 231-LIFE. That's One Life. Grant, you're going to be conducting these seminars, at least in part. Maybe you can give us the movie trailer version of why people should come and what they can expect.
Sure, yeah. As Theo said, Theo and I are both auditors through Manitoba Heavy Construction for quite a few years. We've gone through a lot of companies in our time, and we've seen lots of different things as we go through audits. We've seen lots of pitfalls, lots of very common things that companies aren't doing that they should be doing to help them achieve and maintain their core, as the title of the workshop is. So some of these things might be things like enforcement. Or something on a more general note. Part of the audit involves interviewing people. So you interview people at a management level, at a supervisory level, and at a worker level. And there's no harm in going through and coaching your workers before the external core audit as to what to expect. I get a lot of workers who look like deer in the headlights when an auditor starts asking questions. And it's not necessarily because they don't know the answer. It's simply because they're put on the spot. There's a lot of pressure. They feel if I fail in my answer, my company will fail in their core certification. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily the case. So those are the types of things that we talk about.
Now, if you can't make the day seminar on June the 4th, there is one in the evening, Thursday, June 27th. That'll be from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. So really no excuses. Theo, I know you're not fond of excuses, but I'm going to ask you a question you're probably not going to expect here. We've been talking about how good safety can be for business and why you should embrace it. But when can it be bad for business?
Well, actually, Greg, I love that question. I have an article percolating that I want to write because safety can absolutely be bad for business, and it ruins it. It ruins it for the people that have serious losses, whether it's business losses or physical losses. And so safety is bad for business when people go to that absolute safety place. So an example right now, I have one of our clients, and he's a lovely business owner. And I went to visit him, and he's not very in love with the safety system. He's a little bit ticked off, right? And one of the key reasons is because he's got his workers arguing about whether shorts should be worn in the shop or not. Meanwhile, this is a person who has people working at heights, working alone, hoisting, rigging, very, very high risk work, right? And then you get workers or safety coordinators, or for that matter, the workplace safety and health division, writing improvement orders for trivial matters when we have things going on that's working at heights or things that will kill people, right? That drives me crazy, and it causes business owners, rightfully so, to hate their safety programs and really resent the government. So I encourage Workplace Safe and Health Division. I've told them this personally. And I encourage our business owners to really focus on the credible risk.
Right.
Focus on that 20% of work that you do that gives you 80% of your credible risk. And safety coordinators out there, you do your company a disservice when you take safety too far.
And that can really take the wind out of the sails of something that maybe has got some momentum within your organization, right? When it becomes nitpicky.
It's super frustrating. And that also comes from people who don't really understand what they're doing, because it goes back to people doing what they do understand. So I do understand shorts in the shop. So I'm going to argue about that. And I'm not saying you might not get an improvement order for that. You might, but you're not going to get a fine. It's probably not going to kill somebody unless maybe if you're welding or grinding or something like that. Of course you should be wearing long pants. But I think hopefully you interpret that I'm trying to be taking the reasonable approach here.
Right. Right. And I think that's a way that you've approached so many things you've done in your life. One life, it's the number one, not ONE, one life, because you've only got one to give, one to share, one to prosper. One Life Workplace Safety and Health is the wonderful company, and they've been visiting with us today here on Talk to the Experts. Their website, One Life, number one life, workplacesafety.com. You can give them a call, 204-231-5433. That's 231-LIFE. And Canadian Registered Safety Professional. If I wanted to, I got a really nice printer at home. I could call myself that, right? Without any problem?
Well, you could call yourself a safety professional without any problem. If the Board of Canadian Registered Safety Professionals found out, they would get you in trouble. But anybody can print a card and call themselves a safety professional.
Really?
Definitely.
Why are there not any regulations surrounding this?
That is a great question. I would love to know the answer to that question.
Well, we'll continue to answer those questions. You'll continue to answer them. We'll take our final break. And one more time, just in case you'd like to register, we know you want to register. There's no excuse because we've got two times for you. Thursday, June 27th, 6 till 9 p.m. Tuesday, June the 4th, 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. 231-5433 is the phone number. That's 231-LIFE. Talk to the experts with One Life, Workplace Safety and Health. More of our conversation. Talk to the experts. Just enough time to thank our guests, Grant Jones and Theo Heineman-Kowalchuck from One Life Workplace Safety and Health, for joining us today. Theo, if folks want to get in touch via the internet, they want to send you an email, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
On the web, www.onelifeworkplacesafety.com.
And Grant Jones, it was great to get to meet you and get to know you a little bit on Talk to the Experts today. Look forward to your seminar June 4th or June 27th. I guess I could come to both if I really wanted to. What's the phone number for folks to get involved and to get registered?
Phone number at One Life is 231-5433, 231-LIFE.
That's all the time we have. We have information for you at the top of the hour, all the latest news, sports, and weather right here on 680 CJOB. Thank you for listening to Talk to the Experts.